We'll just let the room fill up a little bit. Let some people find their way into the room at all. Then we got, hello, one person, here they come. They're coming in slowly but surely. So we'll give them a second here. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, Mackenzie. Welcome, Haley. It's nice we don't have as large a group, so we can actually greet people individually and embarrass them, right, Zoe? Get myself in trouble. Sally and Samantha, welcome as well. Sonia, welcome. Good to see you in the room. Shelly's seeing lots of happy, well, they're not happy faces, I suppose. They're squares with letters in them, but I trust there are happy faces behind them somewhere. So we'll give them a couple more minutes to make their way in, and we'll get started here in just a moment. I'll take a moment to introduce myself. I think a lot of the people on the screen have seen me already because I've been hosting these along with my blue face mask that's ready to go because I'm on campus. So I have to be ready to go with my face mask at all times. And it just fits better up here than it does down there. So, and it holds all that hair back that I have not bothered to get cut yet either. And I see a couple more people filtering in. As you do, I will very gently roll into a moment of introducing where I am. I am in the Wallace McCain Student Center right here in the middle of the Mount Allison campus, all by myself. A center named for an interesting man, but more important, we should take a moment to note that this building where I am is located on unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. So even though this is a virtual experience today, and even though I'm the only one here, we are all here in spirit at Mount Allison, and we will conduct this session in that same spirit and respecting the place where we are and the fact that we are welcome to be here on these unceded lands. So a big welcome to everyone. And I'm going to introduce the star of the show. Shelley Collette wears many hats at this university, but one of them, of course, is taking care of our first generation, our first gen students. So Shelley, welcome. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you here. I'm thrilled to have you here, in fact. And as someone who is himself not a first generation student, I would say that my experience here was greatly enhanced by being in the presence of those who were the first in their families to attend, and therefore had a very different perspective. So a very valuable part of our university community. Shelley, I'll let you speak for yourself and for your services. Can you tell us a bit about what we offer to our first gen students?
Well, for sure, Mark. Well, I run academic support. And so some of the programming that we offer to first gen students is academic in nature, and some of it is more social in nature. I was a first gen student myself, but that was back in the olden days. That was long, long ago in the olden days, before we had a name for first gen. I had no idea. I had no idea that there was anything special about me or that I might face particular challenges that were specific to where I was coming from as I entered university. So one of the programs, one of the biggest, most popular programs that we run at Mount A for first gen students is called First Step, and that is our faculty mentor program. And so for First Step, what we do is pair up first gen students with faculty mentors in their area of interest. So whatever course you're taking that you're really interested in, something you want to do your major in, we'll pair you up with a faculty mentor in that area who is also a first generation student. And we have scheduled meetings, and the mentors and students meet with each other regularly, and the mentors are there to support the students both in their transition to university and as they grow as scholars in their chosen fields of study.
Gotcha. And so how are students automatically enrolled in First Step, or is it voluntary? How does that work?
It's voluntary. So all they have to do is give me a shout at academic support at Mount A or at scollette@Mount A. So email me, find me, and I just sign you up and find a faculty mentor that fits your area of interest, and we run from there.
Great. I should mention as well to everyone who's in attendance here today, so this session is for you. So if you have questions, I hope you have questions, please don't hesitate. There's a Q&A box there. It is for you, so pop your questions in there, and we will make sure that basically most of our time here today is for us to answer your questions. I say this a lot, but I'm really going to stress it with this group. If you think you have a question, there's a good chance you're not the only person who has that question. So don't be shy about it, and nobody needs to be embarrassed about any question you ask. Will I suggest that you should be embarrassed if you don't ask questions? I'm not sure, but please.
Don't suggest that. Don't suggest that. But while people are thinking of their questions, I would be interested in hearing what people out there are interested in studying this year. Like what courses have you all signed up for so far? And what do you hope your major to be?
So you can even, so everyone having heard that question, what are you interested in studying? What might your majors be? Go ahead and pop that as a question. You can write it right into the question box. So you can just say science or psychology or aviation or whatever it is you might be thinking about. Please don't be shy, because this is and some of you, this is an important one. Some of you won't have any idea right yet, or maybe some loose ideas or many ideas. You can also say, if anyone wants to say, as was the case for me, I don't know, we're happy to hear that as well.
Well, this kind of information is super helpful to me because it helps me plan what kind of supports I'm going to put into place going forward in fall. If I know what students are studying, then I can think ahead and reach out to faculty in those areas to see if they want to be faculty mentors, for instance. I can plan course supports in those areas. And while you're thinking about what you want to study, let me tell you about another program it's not a university-run program, it's a student-run program to support first-gen students, and it's a club called the First Gen Den. And you all should look them up on Facebook and Instagram. They're really good on Instagram. They've got a good presence on Instagram. And that is a really strong community of support for first-gen students. The first-gens in the second year that we started running first-gen support, the students started the club as a way to organize and host events for first-gen students. And it's a way also for us to run workshops on topics that are important to first-gen students through the club. And the admissions counselors came in last year and helped the first-gen students plan their course of study for this year. We had the Office of Experiential Learning come in last year and help the students think about their summer jobs and summer grant applications and ways of improving their grants and research applications. So the First Gen Den is a really useful student tool for First Gen students.
And where do students find First Gen Den? You said best place is Facebook or Instagram?
Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
Absolutely. We just came up with our theme so every year, First Gen programming, we come up with a theme. And last year, our theme was homegrown. So we worked with concepts like tending the garden of knowledge, etc. This year, inspired by the need for social distancing, our theme is space. And so that very quickly, spacing, which very quickly led us to think of things like outer space and space aliens. And so what began as a reflection on social distancing has now morphed into something really kooky and fun. And so we're working on organizing events around the concept of outer space. And so thinking about how university can be like uncharted territory for first-gen students. And how there's a galaxy of knowledge out there to find. Ways of charting our journey through university. And so First Gen programming this year will be offering just a whole host, a galaxy, a universe of events and workshops based around the theme of space and outer space.
And in terms of inner space, space is one thing we're very fortunate to have a lot of here in Sackville as well.
We do. We do.
So
I
it
see
works
you
out.
out in space all the time, Mark. I run into Mark all the time out in the woods.
This is actually true. That's the last place we saw each other was out in the woods.
It absolutely was.
And it's certainly not the only time. So no, one of the things we're very fortunate for, but that's an exciting theme. And I think that's the first thing when you said space, I thought, yes, outer space, but also it's a word that just has so many meanings and can go so many ways. So everyone can take it wherever they want, out of the planetary realm, or keep it as local as they like too. So space is there. So a really cool theme indeed. A reminder, if you're sitting out there watching this, just pop a few words in there about, even if it's not what you think you might want to study, what are you most interested in knowing about? What are your goals? What do you know, and these don't have to be in terms of questions. Just tell us, what are you thinking about? So that we can chat about you with it, because like I said, don't be shy. All of us have the same questions at the outset.
I remember when I first went to university, I went there with a very specific job in mind. I was going to train to be a social worker. That was what I was going to do. I went to university and I thought, I am going to get a BA and then get a Bachelor of Social Work, and that is my trajectory. And then I got to university and I had no idea all of the different things that I could study. But also I had no idea how those things could translate into an actual work or labor, life, how I could translate these studies and these topics that I was interested in into an actual job at the end. And I think that that is a very logical and reasonable concern. And one thing that I really like about the first gen programming that we offer is that we collaborate with a lot of different offices and departments at Mount A. And so we work with the admissions team and we work with the Office of Experiential Learning to help students figure out a path from their interests to experiences and work that they can take with them after they leave the university, after they graduate.
So if I may ask, you said you started out on a path towards social work, but did you end up with, I mean, it's still ongoing, it's a lifelong process, but.
I ended up with a PhD in religious studies. So pretty far, like my journey charted way far from where I started.
Well, I guess that kind of fits in the space theme a little bit then
It
too.
does, it really does. Yeah, I'm using the language. I'm trying to incorporate it already. Yeah.
Now, you mentioned earlier, Shelley, that when you were a first generation student, the concept of a first generation student as spoken, you weren't even sort of mindful of it because it wasn't out there. Now that you're working as such and you look back on your own experience, what would you say are some of the most important aspects of, you know, that retroactively looking back of that first year and first generation experience? Were there surprises? Were there, you know?
There were, and some of them are kind of embarrassing. And as you're asking the question in my mind, I'm thinking, am I going to reveal this on a webinar that is being recorded and can be replayed indefinitely?
Maybe we can edit it, I'm not sure, but I shouldn't make promises I can't keep.
There were small things that I remember. Like I remember not knowing that you didn't have to raise your hand in class to go to the bathroom.
Okay.
Because my experience of education was just high school. And someone whose parents had gone to university might have told me that, you know, like hanging around the dinner table, I might have said, I'm really nervous about going to university. And dad might have said, oh yeah, well, there are just some things that are different from high school. And here's one of them. And I remember being in English class and being really, really grateful that I was not the person to raise their hand to ask to go to the bathroom. It was some other guy, right? That someone else took that fall for me. And so there were a lot of small things like that. Like, I didn't know that I could schedule my own classes and choose which times I would go to them. I also wasn't prepared for the autonomy.
Okay.
So in choosing your own classes, you also get to choose when you're going to do the work. And so I wasn't quite prepared for the autonomy of being able to determine my own schedule, both my class schedule and my own study and work schedule.
Mhm.
So that was a bit of a shock. I also had no savings to go to university. And so I worked while I was at university. I worked almost full time. And I worked really odd jobs. I was a waitress. I was a clown, if you could believe it. I used to do singing telegrams and children's parties as a clown. Sally Silly, the singing clown.
I'm learning all sorts of things about you today, Shelley. I did not know before. I think we all are.
Yeah, yeah. And it never occurred to me that other students might not be in the same boat.
Right.
It never occurred to me that someone's parents might have saved money for their education and that they didn't have to take out student loans. I assumed that everyone was in the same circumstances I was in.
And
Because there was
it's
nothing.
amazing. Sorry to interrupt, but it's amazing because a lot of the things you mentioned, even as someone I identified earlier, someone like my father went to university, albeit 45 years before I did. So by the time I got there, it was a lot different. But a lot of the things that you're saying, it's like I too felt relatively clueless about these things. And I think I was a good student in high school and I came here and I'm like, so what's this about? And we make this schedule and like, what are we really doing? I knew that university was the next thing, but it's sort of like, what was the objective? So I think that was, if those of you who are here today and you're first generation students and you're thinking this is very daunting, don't worry, those whose parents, grandparents, great grandparents, whoever went, are probably also finding this more daunting than you might be surprised. And
Yeah.
furthermore, I hope that that person who took the fall for you, I think was probably really cool anyway, and it didn't really matter. I mean, maybe on the inside you're like, oh my goodness, but everyone else is like, well, whatever, and probably didn't know either.
And I tell you, the only reason I remember that is because of my own embarrassment that it could have been me.
Right.
If I had not been worried about that, I would never have remembered that this many. I'm not telling you how many years ago it was, but I wouldn't be remembering it this many.
5. It was 5, you know.
It was like just yesterday, basically.
Yeah. I think that, no, it's a really important thing too. One of the things I really like about the culture of Sackville, since it's small, we all get to basically know each other, not necessarily know each other's business, but we know each other. So that kind of thing, it's like, we all get to have a turn being embarrassed in some simple way like that. And so the net effect of that is it all cancels each other out. So none of it matters because we're all in it together. So when you come, everyone, don't feel the need to be shy. I think you see from both of us, we don't feel that need. So
No.
keep that in mind as well. You mentioned briefly, Shelley, the autonomy. Do you have any advice for students? Like, I think that's one of the things that I often see tends to overwhelm students somewhat unexpectedly. They think it's going to be great. It's like, I have all this freedom, but that's actually something that you have to manage. So I don't know if you do or not, but any thoughts about or any hints for students to sort of prepare themselves for some of that shock or similar kinds of shocks?
Absolutely. So the first thing you should do right off the bat is read the syllabus. And the syllabus is just a fancy word for the course outline, right? We use fancy words for things now. So it's just read the course outline and find out when the deadlines are, because they will come faster than you think, right? The first round of deadlines are probably going to be about 3 weeks after you start classes.
Time
Right?
flies, yes.
It really does. And 3 weeks feels like forever, but also it's just around the corner. It is both forever and also right away. And so always, and that is a great tip in general, is to always be thinking 3 weeks down the road. What is coming up 3 weeks down the road? And what can I do right now to prepare for that? Right? So maybe what you can do right now to prepare for what's coming up is go to the library and get the books you'll need for the research paper. You don't have to read them. You don't have to make the notes. You don't have to write the draft. Just go and get them. And I find that taking those small steps towards the larger projects that are coming up can, it's already rattling around in the back of your mind. You know, maybe you're making up cue cards for your Spanish verbs. Maybe you are rereading your econ text, the econ chapter that is going to be on your exam. Maybe you are doing the extra practice questions for Calc. And each of these things will only take you an hour. But there's small things that bring you one step closer to preparation for that larger goal. And it's all about looking 3 weeks ahead. It's coming up 3 weeks from now.
And I know you say sometimes 3 weeks seems like a long time, but one of the things I really felt as a student here was that the time goes so quickly because the experience here, yes. So,
there's so much going on.
Yes, what you do, all these things, a lot of what we're talking about today, certainly not exclusively, but a lot of it, you know, we've talked a little bit about academics here. And academics is obviously a big part of what you come to university for. But then there's so much more that happens here. And I think that's a big part of why so many students choose Mount Allison is because it's a full community experience. It doesn't end at 4:30 or 5:30 or whatever time your classes end. There's more going on beyond that. And your time does go quickly. So 3 weeks, just for perspective, seems, okay, well, like that's basically 15 school days. That 3 weeks is a quarter of a semester. Like we're basically normally about 13 weeks of classes. So don't let that scare you. But it's, you know, the time does go very quickly. And then all of a sudden, you know, people, it's interesting at this time of year, I find myself talking to a lot of students and parents, families about how are we going to get from September to December? It's so much time. And like, when will we get to, when, you know, will you be home for Thanksgiving? When you'll be home in November at some point, or when will you come? And then you come here and all of a sudden you're like, oh my goodness, it's the end of November and exams are coming up and I'll be home for Christmas in no time. Like the time does go quickly. So 3 weeks, yes, it can be a long time, but 3 weeks also can all of a sudden be tomorrow. Even this summer when we're in a, you know, it's a sort of different feeling of time. I
Time
can't
is
believe
weird.
it's July 14th. Yes, it's gone quickly. So it can sneak up on you for sure. We do have a few people who, thank you very much, who have volunteered. So we actually have a couple potentially budding sociologists on the screen, Samantha and Haley, thank you. Samantha also mentioning commerce. Now, there are no good or bad combinations. You can combine anything with anything else. And yet I see that there's a lot of opportunity. I studied commerce and I would like to study, I studied a lot of things. Commerce was one of them. I didn't fit sociology in. You know, there's just only so much time in the day, as we just mentioned. But I now, looking back, wish that I would have been able to fit a little bit more of the sociology in there, because these two things I think relate in some very interesting ways. But so you can take commerce and combine it with anything else, or sociology and combine it with anything else, and you'll find a lot of really interesting correlations there. One of my favorite classes that I talk about often that I took here was, I took it because it counted as a commerce credit, but it was actually a religious studies course. It was ethics and business, and we offer another one, ethics and business culture. It was a fascinating course from a department I had no previous exposure to either. So there's some really neat things out there for sure. So make sure that you take the opportunity. I'm sure that at some point you've been reading about distribution requirements, which is yet another fancy term that we use for basically try some different stuff out. And that's the idea. And so some of you may have heard this before, but that very religious studies course, we tell you take them early and try different things early and get exposed early. I waited and took that toward the end, and then I said, oh, I would like to take some more religious studies. But I was graduating, so time was up. So shop around early and try some different things. I also see Kenzie mentioned psychology, which is always a popular option. It was when I was a student. It continues to be to this day. And the rest of you, if you've got other ideas, I'm still waiting for someone to just say, you know what, I have no idea. Because nobody ever really wants to type that, but the reality is that's probably the majority of you. And also, let me just say, Kenzie, if you end up with a degree in psychology, Samantha, if you end up with a degree in commerce and or sociology, and Haley, if you end up with one in sociology, that will be a real anomaly, that you all came with one idea and actually stuck with them. Because normally I came with the idea there was maybe some commerce and maybe some language, but then I had to take economics, and I discovered, you know what, this is really interesting and engaging. And I saw some other fields as well, like religious studies. So come with an open mind, and I think you'll be really excited about that as well.
We have some excellent faculty mentors in social, commerce, and psych. So all of y'all should absolutely give me a shout and let me know if you're interested in joining the First Gen Faculty Mentor Program, and I will put you on the list to pair you up with some of our awesome mentors in this field.
You can tell me if this isn't a fair question, but any other, just in case anyone's out there thinking about other departments, but they haven't mentioned them, do you have any other, I know you've tons, so you don't have time for all of them, all-star faculty mentors that you might like to tease out at this time?
We have great faculty mentors in chem and in bio and history. Psych, as I said, some really great. One of my dearest friends is a faculty mentor in the psych department. In Soc, the Soc department has been incredibly supportive of the first gen programming from the beginning, from the get-go. Commerce, yeah, so across the board. Yeah. And what we're finding is that a lot of our students are first gen, and a lot of our faculty are very interested in supporting them.
Excellent. In addition to sociology, commerce, and psychology, Mackenzie mentions an interest in math and physics, which are housed in the very same building. They're neighbors with each other, and also asked, would it be too heavy of a course load?
Math, physics, and?
Just math and physics.
Math and physics. Well, they're tied pretty closely together. And I think that for physics, you have to take some of the intro math courses anyway. So you're going to get exposure to all of these subjects and more in your first year.
So part of that first year programming as well, I shouldn't call it programming because everyone designs their own. But normally math and physics do require a bit of the other. So in your first year is normally about taking one or two of each of the things you're interested in. So most students who are going to study math or physics will take math and physics in their first year. So Mackenzie, you can definitely try enroll in both of those, and you'll get a chance to see how math and physics fit in alongside everything else. I think sometimes people have ideas that this is a lot heavier than this, and to some of us, I didn't study physics, so it seems pretty heavy to me just because I don't really know a whole lot about it. But it all depends on your aptitudes and interests and so forth. So I don't think there's anything that's too heavy of a course load. It's again about knowing your own capabilities.
And there's also a free pre-calc course being offered by Margaret Ellen Messenger this summer, isn't there? Yeah.
Yes, there is.
So Mackenzie, you can take that if you're interested in just seeing where math might sit at Mount A.
Yeah, and just to give a little bit a little bit more information about that. Many students, because of course our students come to Mount Allison from everywhere. By the way, just for fun, if anyone is, well, I mentioned that, since students come from everywhere, Shelley asked you to say what you're thinking about studying. I'm just curious if you want to pop in the Q&A box as well, where you'll be coming from, if you'd like to, and just so we get an idea, say where in the world, or it doesn't matter. There's no wrong answer because it's where you are, and it will give us a bit of an idea at least. And I interrupted myself, and as a result, totally lost my train of thought in the process.
You were talking about pre-calc.
Thank you very much. So many of our students coming from various places did not get to finish their pre-calculus course because of everything that happened in March. And so we are still accepting students, we're honoring the offers that we made, but we also acknowledge there's a difference between you being admitted to the university and meeting the requirements and being really prepared. So the math and computing science department has put together a course, or is directing students toward a course. It's a non-credit course, and it's there solely to help students who think that they might like to have a bit more preparation. So all students who study math at the university need to take a math assessment test before, which is kind of a helpful evaluation for, you know, if you see that math assessment test and you say, I don't know any of this, then that's pretty helpful right there. And you might say, okay, I'm going to go and take this pre-calculus course just to bring myself up to speed. But I will, in the next few minutes here, I'll pop up the link for you as well in case anyone's interested in seeing that. So, and I see Kenzie, thanks for letting us know that you're will be joining us from Woodstock this year. If any of the rest of you want to tell us as well where you'll be coming from, we're happy to see what a diverse group that we have as well. Moncton, Haley, so a couple from New Brunswick here. Thank you very much for that. And I do have, actually there's some other questions I've been missing along the way here too. So just this one is, I suppose, a little bit more important just so the students have it. The email address for the mentor program you mentioned, the attendee missed it, and I did too. So what is that address?
It is just me. That is the address. So Shelley, S-H-E-L-L-Y, Collette, C-O-L-E-T-T-E. If you're emailing me from your Mounte email, it should come up.
Okay.
Or you can just email me at scollette@mta.ca.
Perfect. So I'll put that up on the screen so everyone's got it there in front of you as well. And you can always find it by a million different ways through our website and through me. If you can't find Shelley, you can find me, or vice versa. We make it very easy for you. That's, again, one of the benefits of being in a smaller community, so it's easy to find things. Lots of New Brunswickers today. Samantha
Nice.
coming from Miramichi, so we're not only New Brunswickers, but we're from already all corners of the province, which is kind of exciting as well. Another question here as well: are there student mentors for first-gen students, or tutors, or what's the difference, and how does that all work?
So we haven't set up an official student mentor program for first-gen students, but the first-gen Den does act as a peer support network. And so I really encourage students to, you know, attend the first meeting that the first-gen Den will have at the beginning of the year. You'll see them at the Clubs and Societies Fair. They're there every year. But attend their first meeting, get a sense of who the people are. And what we really try to do through all the programming is create a community for first-gen students and provide space where they can get together and support each other. And so we've seen a lot of friendships emerge from these activities. And honestly, I rely on the students themselves to help figure out and help me come up with ideas for future events. And really my job then just becomes to make your dreams come alive. Last year, for instance, I wasn't in the room when this happened, so I have no idea exactly how it happened, but somehow a group of faculty and a group of students decided that we were going to do a bunch of llama-themed events. And we never actually were able to do it because COVID happened. We moved into COVID times, and we couldn't organize any large social events, but they had me planning trips to a llama farm. There's some guy down the road, he's got some llamas, and we were gonna go visit the llamas. I ended up with an office full of llama-themed stickers and hats. But the students decided that llamas were gonna be a thing. And then it became my job to make that dream a reality. And so at these meetings, if you attend the first-gen Den meetings and you come to the faculty mentor social events, I'm going to make it really easy for you to tell me what to do. And the more ludicrous and hilarious, the better, as far as I'm concerned. It makes my job much more interesting.
So in other words, the sky's the limit. Actually, no, that's not true this year. The sky is not even the limit. Sorry, I take that back. So there is no limit whatsoever. Yes.
There's no limit.
There is no fear of not being able to socially distance in outer space, I suppose. Space for everyone. So, and I want to say as well, I noticed over here in the chat that Zoe's writing in from Grand Falls. So hello, Zoe. Zoe, I spent a wonderful night in Grand Falls while I spent many nights in Grand Falls while recruiting, but the coldest morning ever that I had was in Grand Falls. It was just close to -30 somewhere along the way. And
The
Mackenzie, you're
campus?
saying, yes, it was. Nonetheless, had a lovely, it was still clear and beautiful in the morning, so I was able to go out and enjoy a lovely walk very quickly. I walked from my hotel down to John Caldwell, and I don't know if you go there, Zoe, or to the other school that I've been there many times, not Roland Pepin, you're gonna help me with it, Albert, I forget, but I've been both of them. I should have a story for everyone. Bathurst, Mackenzie from Bathurst, I just took a bunch of friends to Northern New Brunswick a couple weeks ago. We went all over the place, and their favorite point was Daly Point, or their favorite place was Daly Point in Bathurst, so they actually thought Bathurst was the highlight of their trip.
My dog is from Bathurst.
Your dog is from Bathurst.
My dog is from Bathurst.
There we go. What kind of dog?
Goofball and Wolf. He's a mutt. He's a mix.
Okay. Actually, I knew that already, but I didn't really know. I've seen him, but I didn't know what kind. And I have stories for, where else do we have people? Woodstock. My driver's license comes from Woodstock. There you go. Miramichi, I have a million stories because I came to school in this very building actually with a lot of students who came from both Miramichi Valley and James M. Hill that year. And we all have a million Moncton stories because it's down the road for us as well. So definitely a fun province in which we live, and we're getting to spend lots of time and enjoy it this year as well. I do have a quick question here, mostly a procedural question, but I have a question we see on the screen. How do we log into Moodle? So do any of your services use Moodle? Like, do you use Moodle for your modules?
Yeah, so the Writing Center is currently based in, it's a Moodle-based platform. Okay. So to log into Moodle, you would need your Mount A ID and your password.
Okay, perfect. So, and if you ever have any trouble finding any of that information, by all means, you can reach out to admissions. So you can reach out to me. I'm just Mark and we can always point you in the right direction. Shelley as well can point you in the right direction at any time. So just let us know how we can help. If you have more questions, we've actually addressed the questions that are so far on the screen. So don't be shy, because if we don't see any more questions pop up on the screen, soon I'll have to do a final call. Shelley, any topics that you can think of that maybe we haven't covered yet today that just that students should be thinking about? I don't know if there are, but throw that one out there for you.
Well, I think it's very useful, especially for first-gen students, when you come to be thinking about your coursework, but also to be thinking about the ways that you can integrate your academic interests outside of the classroom, right? So when you receive an email about a program being offered or a weekend workshop being offered through the Office of Experiential Learning, jump on it. Jump on that email. Sign up right away. Get your foot in the door for these programs, because these extracurricular, these programs that the university is offering outside of the curriculum of your degree of study are really going to enrich your academic experience and your university experience at large, I think.
Let's try that again. Excellent advice. For once, I actually had someone in the building with me. I was not accustomed to it, so I had to turn my microphone off. We're up to 3 people in the building today. It's an exciting day here. And thank you, Zoe. I see now, yes, Thomas Albert is the name of the high school in Grand Falls, where I have been several times. Mackenzie also asked, a little bit off topic, but will the fitness center be open in the fall? Hey, that's fair. We don't know yet. As of September, when you arrive, I do not expect that it will be open right away. But most of these guidelines or most of these decisions are, yes, we make them here at the university, but we take a direction from the government. So when you start to see similar facilities open up in other places, you can guess that that will start to happen as well. But I do believe that we certainly endeavor to open it as soon as we can, but we just have to take our cues from the government as well on that one.
So Mark, you can probably speak about some of the ways that students can stay active outside in Sackville, though. There's so much space.
Yes, and this is the funny thing is I'm someone I think I'm relatively fit. I am, but I don't use the fitness center. I really like to be outdoors. It's one of the reasons when everything happened in March and I was far, far away and I had to figure out where to go. that I decided to come to Sackville because my permanent residence is not even actually here. And yet I said, this is a place where there's lots of space, and it's, you know, if I'm going to be stuck somewhere for a long time, at least I can get out and have some space and be able to exercise. So we do here in town is a great place if you like outdoor, like we have the water, if you just want to go for a stroll, the Waterfall Park is great. If you want to go, I mean, there's tons of places to run. I like to bike. It's a great place to bike as long as you are okay with a bit of wind. We tend to have some gusty winds around here.
We call that resistance training. Yeah.
Yes. So just remember, if you go for a big bike ride around here and you are on your way out and you think this is great and you're making great time, at some point you'll have to turn around.
Well, but you don't even need to bring your own bike because there are free bike rentals through the bike co-op for students.
This is true. Yeah. So just outside, I can almost see it out. Actually, I can see it. Just outside the window here, we do have the bike co-op, so you can go and borrow a bike from there. Shelley and I often run into each other at the, it goes by many names, by the Crooked Tree and the Reservoir, where we have some really fantastic walking, and in the wintertime, snowshoe and ski trails. And they're about 6 kilometers from town, so I'll walk up there sometimes. And there's lots of great paths here, and there's lots of great natural spaces, and they're very different. So this place, the Crooked Tree, is nice because Sackville's at sea level and it's kind of flat. And yet when you go the 4 or 5 or 6 kilometers up to the reservoir and the Crooked Tree, that's almost what we call alpine. It's really just hills, but the winter tends to be a little bit longer up there. And sometimes if it's, you know, the weather's one way down here, you go the 5 kilometers and it's different up there. And then on the other directions, as I mentioned, we're at sea level because we're on the ocean, and a lot of our land is actually reclaimed from the sea. So we have the dikes. In the dikes, you can go out and you can run and you can bike and you can walk, but also the tide comes up and down, and it's a really unique thing because with a little bit of planning, you can participate in some other really fun activities. So a Mount A classic is to go mudsliding. And so when the tide is low, you can go and hurl yourself into the mud and slide down into the river. And you might ask what kind of exercise that is. When it's time to get back out, you will discover it is hard work. So there's a lot of really good natural treasures, and those are just things, the things I mentioned, you can walk to or bike to from here. But one of the other great things, sorry, go ahead.
And last year, I don't know if the town is going to be doing this again this year, but last year the town offered free snowshoe rentals.
Oh, I did not even know.
Yeah. So
my
you can
feet
do
are
the
so
trails.
big, I don't even use snowshoes. So yes, you can get a lot of these things. So whether the fitness center, regardless of when it reopens, I think is what I should be saying, there are lots of ways to stay in shape here, which I often stress is kind of important because the flip side of Sackville being such a small and compact place is that just walking around in your everyday sort of 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 or 9 to whatever routine is probably not going to get you all the exercise that you can really use. You need a little bit more than that. So there are lots of opportunities for that. So I really enjoyed this summer while we've been in sort of a different working format. We also have a property just across the road from my office that's called the Quarry. So it's a lovely space that's gone through a lot of different iterations in its history, but I'll often go over there with a book and just enjoy a nice afternoon and just really take advantage of, I think this theme was designed for me, of the space that we have here, because it allows you to breathe. It allows you to really, to be able to take that time when things are getting a bit more stressed. This weekend, I took a friend out to a place, it's about a 25-minute drive called Slacks Cove. And it is a really great place to sort of restore your energy or to spend some time. I had a really good friend who was a first-generation student, and she came here and decided to run for the president of what is now called the MASU. And so I assisted her with her campaign, and one day she was running in all directions and doing a million different things. And I said, Lucille, we need to meet at 4:30. We have an important meeting about your campaign. And I happened to have a car for some reason, and I put her in the car and we went out there in the middle of the winter, and it was a beautiful, calm day. You can see across to Nova Scotia, and I'm sure that if someone had flushed the toilet in Nova Scotia. It was so quiet we could have heard it, but it was she says to this day, she tells the story about like she really needed that. And so we don't need to go all the way out there, 20 minutes or 25 minutes, but there's lots of places to do that. And so fitness is, yes, it's about the body, but it's about the mind as well. And so in addition to the first gen den, we have, and Shelley's services as well, we have a lot of things here in the student center. We have our wellness center. And so taking care of yourself is important, and we are here to make sure that that happens as well. So it seemed like it was an off-topic question, but in reality, it's probably more on topic than you thought. And with that in mind, any other questions that you may think are on topic or off topic, but we will make them be on topic, go ahead. And I guess I will make that sort of final call. Maybe it'll be like the airplane where there's 7 final calls for questions.
Well, while we're waiting for final questions, let me tell you about some of the ideas I have for first gen events this year. So one of my ideas is to have, because we have to be conscious of the need to perhaps have events that are happening outside, so that we can get together and be together as a group, but safely. And so I'm thinking maybe in the winter what we'll do is have a sledding party, because let me tell you, if you're worried about being fit, Sackville is filled with hills. So you can run up a hill and down a hill and up a hill and down a hill and up a hill and down a hill and still not be home. And so the good news is that in winter we can go sledding. And so I'm thinking maybe we can have a sledding paint party and make great designs up and down these hills with paint that we trail behind our sleds.
Ooh.
Isn't that cool?
That is fun. Am I allowed to participate in that?
Yes.
Too? Okay.
Yes. All people are welcome. And so that's one of the things that I was thinking we might do. I also thought we might revisit the llama thing and take a trip down the Trans-Canada Trail, which is another great place to go walking or running. It's accessible from the Waterfowl Park and from the high school. And you can go straight down to Midgik. Now, you don't know where Midgik is, but it's far. And so it's a little community just outside Sackville. There's actually a really fun story about the Midgik Airport. There
is, yes.
Yeah.
The famous Midgik Airport, which you can all go and look for when you get here, but it may be a fruitless search.
It's a little bit like looking for aliens. You may find it. It may just be in your mind. Who can say? Yeah, but you can run down the Trans-Canada Trail for miles and miles and miles.
Yeah, I have a friend actually who frequently commutes from Port Elgin, another community outside of Sackville, on the Trans-Canada Trail, and on a bicycle. That has also, that also has, he calls it power assist, but if he pedals it, that it saves up some energy, so he's actually able to move along at a pretty good clip. But you bring up a really good point, Shelley. I think one of the things that will be really important this year, and this is an opportunity for maybe some of you to lead the way in this first year, is that we will need to be thinking a lot about things that we can do outside. We're still learning a lot about COVID-19, but all the indications to this time are that being outdoors allows you to really minimize your risk in a lot of ways. So I encourage you, start thinking now, because Shelley talked about the winter, but one of the things I like as a student who came from Ontario about the Maritimes, I like it in the fall, not so much in the spring. The seasons are late. September is normally a gorgeous month here.
Beautiful.
September, October, November, you can do a lot of things outside. So think about
you can still go swimming.
Yes. In fact, it's usually better to go swimming in September than it is in June. Yeah, big time. So September in a lot of ways is the sweet spot for this part of the world. Like the water is at its warmest. The temperatures are usually really just getting up then. Like my first summer here, I remember coming from Ontario, it was June and it wasn't warm yet. Like, when's it gonna get warm? And like, just wait till July. And then July came and July also wasn't that warm, and like August. And finally in August it kind of did, but then it stayed warm through September and actually into a good chunk of October as well. So think a little bit about those opportunities as you're coming. And a little bit of ingenuity will go a long way this year. Because that is one of the reasons that being here at Mount Allison is so exciting, is that you get to interact with people. And so the more that you're out and about, the easier it will be to do that this year as we continue to sort of modify our routines to accommodate what we're learning about COVID-19 as we move on through the year.
I'm really excited for these new opportunities. I
I
think it's
am
going to be a
too.
lot of fun.
One of the things that's really neat is we have 180 years of history here at Mount Allison. So sometimes we think that we know exactly what we're doing because we've been doing it for a long time. But sometimes we need some new perspectives, some new ideas. And so this is something that this group should be particularly great with, is bringing some new perspectives and new ideas. And they are more than welcome. They are required. We need different, well, no, it's true. Any place, it doesn't matter how good you are, you need to be thinking about how you can make that place better and how you can make it work for you as an individual as well. I think that's one of the things that's very important to keep in mind too, is it's really up to each individual, and Shelley's there to provide the support, we all are, to be your own driver of this process. And so, and as I say, we have any number of ways to provide the assistance with that. But, think about how you can make the community a better place, but think about how you can make the community work for you too, and how you can coexist with that so that it's a really positive experience while you're here. I do see another question that popped up here about, do you know when you'll be finding out about when your virtual room tours will be? I believe if those are happening next week, you should be getting your appointments in the next few days. Allison Ball, my colleague who takes care of those events, I do know that she's off today and tomorrow, so I'll be really surprised if you get that information today or tomorrow. But you'll be getting information about that in the very near future, so you can get a glimpse of what your room will look like. And so everybody who wants to will get that chance. If you haven't signed up, there's still lots of time to do so. If you don't get a chance to look at it, don't worry. The first time I ever saw my room, which was actually right there when it didn't look like that, was the day that I showed up at Mount A. And so, you figure it out one way or the other, but it is a fun day to be able to get a glimpse of what you're coming into. So look forward to receiving that information in the next few days, but you haven't missed it, so not to worry about that. Anything else we should be talking about here today, Shelley? We've covered a lot already.
Yeah, I think we're all set.
So Shelley's information, Shelley's email address is still up there. And as she mentioned, she's the only Shelley Collette in town. She's also, I think, the only Shelley with only one E that I know in town. So I think that makes things easy too. And as I mentioned, I'm Mark at mte.ca. If you have any questions for me after this session, we're taking a recording of it. Hence, Shelley did not reveal any truly embarrassing secrets today. We'll save those for in person. That's what you got to go find her for when you're here on campus or virtually or in person. But we're here to assist you as always. So let us know how we can do that. And make sure when you have a question, you ask it. We have a million different ways for you to ask your questions. In front of people, individually, privately, publicly, you name it. That's all pretty much the same stuff. But don't be shy, we're here to help. So Shelley Collette, thank you so much for spending this time and making it such an enjoyable period. And thank you so much to all of our attendees from all over the province, and I suspect beyond as well. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and your evening, and we'll be in contact with more information, more webinars on the way for this summer webinar series. So after these upcoming residence room previews, we do have several more of these webinars coming up. So keep an eye on your email account and on our social media for updates and invitations for those. And until then, stay well, and we'll be in touch very soon. Have a great afternoon, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.